March 9th, 1997. That is when the police received a call from an anonymous person saying this group of people they believed committed mass suicide. That's what they told the police. Like I said, it was an anonymous person. So what happens is the police show up and they find 39 dead bodies just lying in bed with bags over their heads. They had consumed applesauce mixed with sleeping medicine, sleeping pills. So what happened was half of them had mixed up the applesauce and eaten it, put bags over their head. The other half watched them and kind of went up and down the rows to make sure that they were, secured and going to sleep and everything else. And then the second half did the same thing, secured bags. And after some time, the police were called by this anonymous person. They show up, they find all of this here. And they found a bunch of tapes from the leader. Doe is what he went by. His real name's Marshall Applewhite. Now, I've talked about this before, but I have a point behind this. Why is it that this was considered a cult from day one, but Jehovah's Witnesses have not been considered a cult? Why is it? What is it about Jehovah's Witnesses' presentation that doesn't scream cult to people? I didn't even think it was a cult. I didn't think that Mormons were a cult or any other groups like that were a cult until way later, until I discovered the Bite model and started kind of trying to research it myself and figure out what a cult is. Why is it that these groups are considered mostly harmless when something like Heaven's Gate was called from the very start as being a cult? I remember looking through the Bite model for the very first time and seeing things like, does the group set up a system of rewards and punishments? For example, heaven and hell, you've got the carrot and the stick. Why is setting up a system of rewards and punishments important? Why does that matter? Why is that a marker on the Bite model? The reason is because you have things like, you can see this group trying to modify people's behavior through this system of rewards and punishments to try to turn them into who they want them to be, okay? So if you send a dog to a training school, what are they going to do? If you're trying to teach the dog how to sit, or how to play dead, or how to roll over, something like that, what are you going to do? You're going to give it treats when it does it correctly, or you're going to chastise it in some way if it does it incorrectly, or at the very least, give it treats. I don't know. I've never trained dogs. I'm just throwing it out there. That's a system of rewards and punishments to teach this dog what you want it to do under certain circumstances. So if you hold your hand out, it's going to put its paw in your hand after enough positive reinforcement, right? It kind of becomes natural. It's like Pavlov's dog, where Pavlov would ring the bell and feed the dog. Ring the bell, feed the dog. Ring the bell, feed the dog. And after some time when he rang the bell, the dog would salivate, expecting food, before the food even came out. It's conditioning. It's conditioning people. These rewards and punishments, the system of rewards and punishments is intended to condition and modify people's behavior until they have a personality that you want them to have, or that these cult leaders want their members to have. So heaven and hell is commonly used as one of those methods of conditioning. The fear of hell, the promise of seeing loved ones after you die or after they've died, the promise of seeing loved ones who were handicapped or who were injured in some way, seeing them walk again, that kind of thing. When I was younger, I think I was probably 8, 9, 10 years old maybe, my oldest brother got disfellowshipped from Jehovah's Witnesses. And as a family, we shunned him. We were not allowed to talk to him. He was cut off. He wasn't allowed to come to the house. We weren't allowed to call him. We didn't answer the phone if he called us. And like I said, I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. I was doing what my parents told me to do. I didn't really see anything wrong with what I was doing. I didn't really connect the dots. I didn't understand what was happening. I was a little kid. I say this because I beat myself up over it now. And I try not to, because I really know it wasn't my fault that I shunned him. But I did. I shunned him. He doesn't blame me for it now. We're both on the outside, and we both talk now and everything. But it's still hard to deal with. And with Jehovah's Witnesses, that's part of their system of rewards and punishments, shunning. It's social pressure. They prevent you from taking part in social events. They forbid your family from speaking to you if you break their rules. It's a system of rewards and punishments designed to condition you to have certain personality traits that they want you to have. Something else I noticed on the bite model when I was looking at it, comparing Jehovah's Witnesses to it, something called thought-stopping techniques. I thought about this, and I made note of some of the thought-stopping techniques or the anxiety-calming techniques that they had. For example, they would say, read the scriptures when you're upset. When you're thinking about something that you shouldn't be thinking about, like if you're having impure thoughts of some sort, read the scriptures. Memorize a scripture and condition yourself every time the word that triggers you to have these thoughts appears in your head, replace it with these scriptures. There's a thought-stopping techniques. I mean, they did a whole video series on how to do this. Basically, how to program yourself, how to brainwash yourself. I remember when I was little, I was afraid of monsters in my bedroom. I was afraid of the dark. I mean, most kids are afraid of the dark, right? Well, I told my mom that I was afraid of the dark. I said, I feel like there are monsters in my bedroom. She didn't exactly say it this way, but just to summarize, she said, yeah, there are monsters in there, but they're not monsters, they're demons in your bedroom. But if you say Jehovah's name, then they can't hurt you. So I would go into my bedroom at night saying the name Jehovah over and over again. Jehovah, 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 Jehovah. That's another technique to try to get you brainwashed. It's a thought-stopping technique. It's a technique to put you deeper into the religion, to make you rely on their methods. Another thing they do, I made note of on the bite model, is love bombing. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses are a little bit different with this one than many other religions. A lot of religions will actually befriend people, or they'll tell their members to befriend people specifically so that they can bring them into the religion. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses, they do that. They do want you to befriend people to bring them into the religion. But if the moment it looks like it's a dead end, you're supposed to run. The moment it looks like a dead end. You're not supposed to go hang out with people outside of the religion. You're not supposed to hang out with them outside of work or outside of school. You're supposed to preach to them. And the moment you think they're not really actually interested, you run. So they do love bombing. But like I said, it's not quite to the extent that other religions do it. So how do religions become cults? How does this happen? How do you get from some moderate thing to this extreme cult that's controlling people? Where is the leap there? The problem is that a lot of the time, when you are learning about these groups, like when you're learning about their ideologies, it doesn't seem that extreme to start. They kind of hide the extreme stuff from you. Or, on occasion, they are growing more extreme with you. So when I used to be an anti-SJW. I'm neither an SJW nor an anti-SJW anymore. But when I was an anti-SJW, I remember watching a lot of these YouTubers who were talking about it, and it seemed super reasonable at the time. I was so on board with everything that they were saying. And over time, it got more and more extreme, and I didn't even realize it. I didn't realize how extreme it was getting. But Kylie's mom, my daughter's mom, she was watching anti-SJW stuff too, but she was watching different YouTubers. And I saw her getting more extreme than me. I saw the gap. I saw it happening. And that's what it took to kind of shock me out of it for a second. It's like, wait a minute, wait. That's an extreme version of my position that I already hold. Then I started hearing the YouTubers that I was watching talking about the exact same thing. That's when I realized that I held extremist views, extremist anti-SJW views. And that's what it took to break me out of it. People in extremist religions don't see that it's extremist. They think it's reasonable and logical and consistent. And as time goes on, these religions get more and more and more extreme. And there's a massive gradient there that it's a gradual process of getting more extreme, and that's why the people don't realize it. That is how a religion becomes a cult and how it maintains members through that.